Welcome to Get Serious. Today, just wanted to run over a quick analogy about, how to identify the biggest areas to focus on within your business and, determine which are the larger fires to figure out as much as possible. I think a lot of this can come down to, I know the folks who are familiar with Hormozy, like you either have a supply problem or demand problem. One is always going to be larger than the other within your business. You have to determine that. Sometimes it can be difficult and solve that particular area before you consider putting a lot more resources on the other side. But because that can be difficult to figure out, and some problems within your business are just going to be much more apparent. If you're just like not able to make payroll, or you just have, no money coming in, no real that's very obvious that things are not going the best. But I think anybody who's achieved like some type of stability or some type of like reliable revenue within your business, sometimes it can be tricky to figure out, are you still really growing here? Are you a bit more plateaued? Or are you even like on the route to a possible descent here? And some of these scenarios can take a while to actually play out. So you have to be really, really sensitive about where to detect, the largest underlying issues of your business are the ones that demand your greatest attention. And again, because it can be hard to read the label from, inside the bottle, that familiar phrasing. Sometimes you just might be ignoring subconsciously even what the largest issue is. And so I like to liken this. I'm a father of a 2.5-year-old daughter. Fortunately, the tantrums have been on their descent now for a while here, but anybody who's been a parent, I mean, the first year is like almost fully crying, right? And then it starts to, slowly wean off over time, maybe some fluctuations up and down. But when your kid is upset, like you really can't ignore that, right? I will regrettably admit, I mean, there was a handful of times when, my wife was out and it was just me, like even I was just trying to get like some dinner, I thought my kid was gonna be napping. I mean, this is when she was very young, right? More newborn stage, and just like so stressed out. Then you just hear this like wailing starting, like, man, can I just buy like 10 minutes? Maybe she'll cry herself to sleep. I don't know. I have the monitor there so I can, even turning down the volume. Like even if you turn the full volume off, like it'll show like the red bars and everything. It's like, oh my God, it hurts internally to even visualize or hear your kid. Like it's not something you can ignore for any real length of time. And it's just like the pain threshold and pain for your flesh and blood is um even if you have a high one, like it's just you're gonna have to go take care of your kid like sooner rather than later, even for the sake of your own sanity. Like it's a very apparent signal that something is wrong. And then there could be times where they start to maybe like grumble a little bit, maybe start to cry. And it's like, do we know if something is starting here? But either way, like it's another factor of like, yeah, you can just be a bit more attuned as a parent. All right, what's the issue? What decision do I need to make here? What action do I need to take in order to figure out how to solve the problem at hand? But within the business, it's not, again, always going to be that apparent. I would say in most cases, most problems, especially the most critical, important but not urgent problems, like yeah, if like a closing is going wrong and just like a wire is not coming in or whatever, like that is just okay, I need to take care of this, figure out what is going on here. Like that's like the equivalent of the kid kind of screaming at the top of their lungs. But I think the bigger factors are like starting to try to figure out what are those first initial cues that are starting to happen, that are a little bit some of the grumbling, a little bit of mewing that could lead to a full-on tantrum. But you could head that off if you can kind of catch it earlier on, and that could be months in advance. So just trying to figure out, okay, what KPIs do I need to be tracking? What parts of my business am I not looking at closely enough to determine where the real pain is potentially coming from, and why things aren't necessarily on that trajectory that you want to see, because it's just natural, like any business, like you have to be constantly growing. Um, like even stay ahead for a relative short period of time, because any other competitor, like they're going to be growing around you and past you over time. So like you have to keep up at a minimum in order to kind of keep things moving forward. So like there's always going to be some underlying problem that could grow into something much larger if you're not taking actions to determine what that is. So just having that acuity and sensitivity to the business, I think, is a really, really difficult skill to develop over time. And like the larger the business you get, kind of paradoxically, it becomes easier to lose sight of some of those signals or even just ignore them, because you just might be sitting on just a more safe cash pile or revenue coming in. So it's easier to just say, oh yeah, things are kind of working here, but in reality it's like not on the best trend. So, for us, like an example is just, we're really trying to grow into larger purchase price deals more reliably, but, we also had a chicken and egg problem. We had to knock out a couple big exits in a more difficult market in order to resupply the cash to feel more comfortable going after bigger deals without injecting a lot more personal capital, putting ourselves at a lot more risk, or potentially levering up, especially in this environment that is just a high risk play, to say the least, when we didn't have some of the data to show, hey, in this environment, we're actually getting some of these larger exits. So it was a consideration there of trying to move through this dispo process, but then also realizing, on the acquisitions, we have a number of leads coming in, just our threshold for investing in any of these deals has just been lower. So, our hit rate for deals we're investing in is just lower than it has been the past couple of years. And I'd say the fluctuation of leads is more questionable too, even though our brand recognition is very significant within the industry. And we get a lot of inbound that, some of these deals that we're still funding at the moment might have been originated even like late last year or very early this year, and just took a while to like move to the front of the line. But stuff that's actually getting deeper into our acquisition pipeline is just much more decreased. So like that to me is like, all right, we're about to have our most profitable month ever this month. But beyond that, okay, it's still more of a plateaued or even, a descent in terms of possible revenue, possible profits in the business. So it's like, how do I start to head this off with either opening up the flow a little bit more, less conservative, which I really don't want to do, or it's like, okay, we need to jump onto some of these larger deals, potentially even a little bit quicker than I might have anticipated. Sometimes that doesn't always feel right either. So it's like still balancing, okay, what's still the smartest thing to do within this business? But I'm trying to be more sensitive of like not getting caught up with just that dopamine rush. Okay, great profits coming in right here. It has to be more forward looking. Okay, what has our pipeline looked at? It's just been weaker in terms of stuff that would actually filter through for us to earn more future revenue and profits on anyway. So we have to, find that mewling baby before it turns into a full on tantrum, and start to, figure out a solution to that problem, because, that's what our entire business runs on. So just wanted to give you that analogy there. Again, I think any parent probably can understand this a lot quicker here, just because it's such a visceral type of situation. But again, for larger or growing businesses, sometimes this can be really, really difficult to figure out. And that's why I would use like AI as a thought partner, or if you have other human board members or other people who are much farther ahead of you and can kind of point out and strategically what to look out for, or really assess your business in a more thorough and accurate standpoint to help you get to that next level and avoid some of those 5-alarm tantrum problems that could arise and cripple you if you're not careful, or be a really big hole to get out of. That's just absolutely important. Like that has to be an almost daily check-in process of just where we at, what is starting to grow in the background here. So with that in mind, seriousland.capital for any of your funding needs. Hope to see many more large deals. Again, 100K plus purchase price would be ideal for us at the moment. Zero cost review of your land deals at Land Daily Diligence Facebook group. About to hop onto a session on that now. And landpricer.ai for the most reliable land pricing tool on the market. Subscribe and share. Take care, everybody. Talk to you next time. Bye.